Hi there. In the previous few lectures, we've learned a lot about strings. We've learned how to open them using the parameters in the open function, how to read them, how to close them, moving the position or moving the pointer to the beginning, and much more. In the last lecture with files, we'll be learning how to delete and rename the files, and then we'll be creating a cool program which will rename, or will not rename, but will copy one file's data to another file. Let's do this. So first, open up your IDE. Alright, expand. Awesome. So let's do a quick recap of what we've learned before we get moving. First thing first, let's just open a file. So we had our test file is equal to open test.txt, and then let's just read off this. Test file.read. Alright, there we go. That's a simple function, read. Alright. Now let's say we wanted to rename our file. We want to change it from test to call it maybe test2 or test3. Then how do we rename our file? Well, to do this, we first have to import a module. That module's name is OS, which is short form for operating system. So import OS. Alright, there we go. Now the next thing we have to do is rename. So just like it was with .read, .close, .open, that was equal open, but .seek, everything we've done so far, it's the same thing. os.rename, and then in the brackets, it'll take two parameters. The first parameter is the current file name, and the second parameter is the new file name. So our current file name is test.txt, and we want to call it test2.txt. There we go. Click enter. Now our file has been renamed. So let's close our file, testfile.close. Cool. So our file has been renamed now. And from test.txt, it's gone to test2.txt. Now let's say we want to delete this file. We don't want test2.txt anymore. There's another simple command. Just like we use the os.rename, we'll be using the os.remove. So os.remove and file name. So our file name is test2.txt. Now you can delete it, but actually we'll be using this file later on, and I don't want to paste and create a new file. So you can try this once we're done with the lecture, but it will work, don't worry. But this is the os.remove function. Alright. Now let's create our simple application which takes in a file name and then copies its value to another file. So we'll be taking an input from the user, and that input will be which file do you want to get copied. So there's a function for this that we haven't talked about, and that function is called input. So what we do is all we're going to say file name is equal to input, and then in brackets enter your file name. Alright, let me explain what we just did. File name is our variable in which we're going to store whatever the user inputs. Input is a function that we haven't talked about. Input prompts the user to enter some data that we're going to store. So if you click enter your file name, and it's the pointers there, so let's just enter our file name. Our file name is test2.txt. Alright, so if we print file name now, would you look at that? test2.txt has been saved. So when we wrote test2.txt, that was stored in file name, and now we printed it. Great. Next thing we have to do is open up this file. So what we're going to do, test file dot is equal to open file name, comma, this is going to be just read mode, so it's okay. Now it's saying no such file directory test2.txt. So let's go back, let's see, do we have a test2.txt? It's right here. So our test2.txt has been renamed, but it's saying that there's no such file or directory. That's because of the space. So if you notice while I was typing, I had put an extra space. I'm not sure if you've noticed that, but you can see it here that it can't find the file name test2.txt. Because we want our work to be neat, let's redo this. And instead of doing this, just put a space here so that the user has some gap to enter. Input, just let's do that again. test2.txt, and then say test file is equal to open file name. Alright, awesome. This time no error because the spacing problem was not an issue. So the value of file name has now been stored in test file. Now what we want is to create a new file. And we want to store test file's value into that new file. So first let's initialize a new file. Let's call it new file is equal to open, let's call this copied data.txt. And then we'll be using the write. So make a W. Just type the W. It's for the parameter write. Click enter. Now, this is a quick challenge. Can you tell me how we're going to do this? We want new file's data to be equal to the test file. So I'm just going to pause the video. It's a 30-second thing. It's pretty easy. You can do this. Alright, if you didn't get it, that's okay. We're just going to go through it. So how do we write to a file? Well, if you remember in the previous lecture, we talked about it, the .write function. So what we're going to do is new file .write, and then what do we want to write? Whatever test file's value is. And how do we get the test file value? That's through test file.read. So new file.write, test file.read. So it's a bit complicated, but you should get used to it soon now. New file.write writes to our new file. And what are we writing? The value of test file. So the test file.reads, whatever that value is, will be written to our new file. Click enter. Alright. Now let's say we want to see if this is bin, if our new file actually holds this data. So what we have to do first is close both files. Test file.close. New file.close, because, well, if you tried printing it, so let's just give it a try. New file.read, just try. It says unsupported operation not readable. And why is that? Because when we opened our new file, we did it in the write mode, which means we cannot read off it. So we have to close our file, and then we have to open it up again, or actually, let's just go to our Finder, and if you look over here, copy data.txt, and it's already been, the data has been pasted, but let's just open it up. New file is equal to open copy data.txt. Now we just want to read mode, so we're not going to do anything, and let's just say new file dot read. Great. Would you look at that? So our program has now copied a test file's value into new file. Now we could save this program if you want. This is actually a pretty cool program. Just hit new file, type the code in this, Command S, save it, and then enter copying files and just click save. So if you wanted to save this program, you can do it like that. I haven't saved any programs yet, but once we get on to some more complex stuff, I'll start writing in the file, in the new file area. Alright, cool. Let's do a quick recap of what we learned. First, we did a recap of the .read, the .write functions. Then we learned about the OS, importing the operating system module. Using that, we can rename text files and we can close text files. The next, we learned about the input function. File name is equal to input, enter your file name. And when we did that, we entered our file name, but we had put that extra space, so it gave us an error that the test2.txt cannot be found because it has the extra space. So we did it again, and we put the space here instead. So we got it like this. We enter test2.txt. We opened our file. So we opened file name. And then we opened a new file to get it copied into. We called it copy data.txt and we opened it in a W. That means a writing format. Then we said new file.write, i.e. what we want to write into this new file should be test file.read, the data of test file. So it returned 97, that's the number of characters, don't worry about that. We closed the file, and then to show you guys what would happen if we did .read here, it gave us the error unsupported operation not readable. Why? Because we opened it in a W format, we did not open it in a read format. So we closed the file, we opened it again, and we read. We got Python as an amazing language, you can do a lot with it. Hi there, I'm Bob. Hi there, I'm Bob. Awesome. This is an achievement to be proud of. We've come quite far in coding since the beginning, and this is great.